Hello and welcome to In the Money Media and First Racing's coverage of First Saturday. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatal, far from the Brooklyn bunker. I am here at Gulfstream Park at my standing desk in the suites. It's a gorgeous day, and we've got amazing racing for you. Going to be covering on this live stream for the next couple hours, handing it off to our friends at America's Best Racing for an hour, coming back to wrap things up between 6 and 7, covering the Ultimate Betting Challenge, talking a whole lot about the coast-to-coast all-turf and all-dirt pick fives and a variety of other stakes races, covering all the races in the time window as well. And to do it all with me, a man coming to us from an undisclosed location in New England. You know him from his eponymous podcast, the work he does on NBC and other places as well. He is TV's Matt Bernier. Matt, how are things?
Doing well, Pete. Looking forward to going over these races with you this afternoon, and everybody watching wherever you're checking this thing out on all the social media channels for First Racing as well as in the Money Media. We've already seen some big performances at Gulfstream so far today. Kathleen O was really impressive in the Devona Dale. We saw a bit of an upset earlier with Never Surprise, not even finishing in the money at 1-5. So maybe that's just a precursor of things to come. And I can tell the wind is still blowing down there. You can hear it on the mic a little bit, but I've heard it's a bit of a crosswind as opposed to a head or tailwind. Is that right?
That's exactly right. It seems to be coming straight at me. You can't see it in frame, but I'm holding on to my laptop. When we were testing it, nearly got blown off the podium here at the standing desk. But we're going to make it work, as we always do. We want to hear from all of you, the listeners out there. Shout out so far to Billy Sue and to Elliot and Daniel and Ann and Mike. We got people coming in from all over the world. Venezuela, Vancouver, Turkey. This is amazing. It's great to hear from you. Hello to Faith, by the way, as well. Keep the comments coming. Let us know who you like later on. We're going to be joined throughout the next several hours by a variety of guests. Let's bring in the first one now. Very familiar voice and name to folks who are fans of the stuff we do here at In the Money Media. He is a man who has many, many accolades. You see him on television as well. He's Jonathan Kitchen. What's up, buddy?
That's okay, Pete. You stumbled a little bit there, didn't you? Yes, I am no longer the people's champ.
I wasn't going to take that honorific away from you, but I was worried, I didn't want to turn the comments into talking about something else, but I should have planned it better.
Well, that was the easiest bio edit in the history of the world. Yeah, look, it's fun to be back with you guys. Obviously, an awesome day of racing. I love what they did, kind of trying to bring it together with both coasts. They got the UBC going today, which is obviously a great opportunity. Then you got the cross-country picks, which I think just kind of goes a little bit under the radar. I think that's something that's really, really good for horse players. I don't know about you guys, but and no offense to all the racetracks, whether it be a Sonic track or an IRA track or Oaklawn or wherever, I hate getting stuck with some 16 claimer in the last leg of these stakes-laden cards. I much prefer this, where we tie together these great races, these graded stakes. It feels like a Breeders' Cup when you're handicapping these two pick fives, the all dirt, the all turf. You feel a little Breeders' Cup-ish, where you're playing just good racing. You don't have to worry about that maiden 40 who's been off for 2 years and shows up here and now it's a stakes race. And so I'm really excited about tackling the day.
You make a good point about the coolness of being able to choose the races in a pick as opposed to leaving it up to what's arbitrary, just whatever races happen to be from race 6 to 10. I like the idea of picking and choosing, and of course we really like the higher minimum. Forces players to have an opinion. It helps players in other less obviously perceptible ways as well in terms of the efficiency of the pools. But of course, the thing that helps the player the most is 12% takeout. Oh, I told you about the wind. There it was, literally blowing my screen over. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Yeah, these are really cool bets, and I know, Matt, you're pretty pumped about the ability to participate in them as well. At some point here, we'll pop instructions up on the screen if you're looking for how to approach these bets. It's not in the normal wagering menu that you see there on your first racing screen. You got to go to a separate drop down for this all turf pick 5, the one that's about to start. You go under the track event menu where you normally choose Gulfstream or Santa Anita, whatever, and you look for 1TN to get involved. And hopefully we're going to have a lot of people playing along with us in these bets. I know, JK, you've talked about this in a bunch of places, but I will bring Matt in general just to ask. I mean, are we overselling these coast to coast bets, Matt, or is this something that really catches your interest as a horse player?
No, I mean, Jonathan kind of took the phrasing I would have used. It's why the Breeders' Cup pools are as giant as they are, because you've got the best of the best in all these different races and these different divisions. And to his point, on a normal Friday or a normal Saturday, you got to deal with some sort of a maiden special race that you don't really know any of the horses, who's ready to go, who's not, who's going to need one before we see their best, any of that sort of stuff. On a day like today, you've got the best of the best. And I love the fact that they're separated into dirt and turf. That to me is something that's really intriguing as well, because, as horse players, certain people have certain niches that they are more proficient in than others. And if turf is your game, stick to the turf, stakes pick 5. If you're more of a dirt player and you feel like you got an edge there, lean into that a little bit more so. And then, if for whatever reason some of the races you don't like or that you do like aren't part of the sequence, there are other individual sort of sequences that you can get involved with at either track as well. So I think it's just more of this is a good thing overall for horse players.
And I know, Pete, we talk about it all the time about the horse player votes with their dollar. We always encourage on the network when racetracks or organizations try to do something that's horse player friendly, it's not everything that you wish that it could be, because I know we all think we have all the answers. I think when they even do anything new and creative that is a head fake, at least at something that is better for us, we have to support it. And I'm happy to see that it seems to be the case so far. The pool at this point is at $265,000. I think that's pretty good for $1 minimum, for the fact that it's a bunch of other pick 5s, a bunch of other opportunities. You got the West Coast stuff going on. You've got big races basically all over the country. And I think to be at 277 with 2 minutes to post, you got to feel pretty confident they'll get closer to the 400 number if they, obviously if they take their time a little bit here as well.
I had a side bet on what these pool sizes would be. Somebody, wise guy in the suite, said he was taking the under 250. I told him I was taking the over on both. So looks like I've won one of my first bets of the day, honestly. Haven't been crushing it exactly so far. But good to see that. Let's talk with 2 minutes to post, guys, about who the horses you want to use are in this first leg of this all-turf pick. The Palm Beach Stakes for 3-year-olds going a mile on the dirt right here at Gulfstream Park.
Jonathan, I'll let you start because I'm curious to hear kind of where you're leaning into.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the 4 and the 6, but the 6 is scratched. So I'm scrolling through here. Hold on, getting to the race. The 4, main event for George Weaver. Look, I love playing dirt races, but turf races are in the mix. You have to play them more, and although they are a little bit more random at times, there is one thing that I have found that is pretty consistent. Tactical speed towards the inside, where you can get position and then get out of that tight spot when it's time to run. Those seem to work out more often than not. And I felt like main event for George Weaver and Jose Ortiz down towards the inside should pop away from there. And Jose should be able to put main event where he wants main event to be. And then main event should have the tactical speed to be able to get out with a horse that has shown some tactical ability. I don't think this needs to be a wire job by any means, but I do think the 4 main event is definitely a horse that I would want to have on my tickets.
Yeah, it was a race when I first looked at it. I thought there was quite a bit of speed in here. And to your point, if you've got a horse that has tactical speed, that's not a burner and just sort of a runoff, sort of in the same vein as a Never Surprised, who we saw earlier lose at 1-5, that's advantageous. But with the other speeds in here that seemingly they've got one way to go, thought maybe things could heat up a little bit, and maybe he's not the most likely winner, but credibility, if he can take a step forward in a second start off the bench for Mark Cassidy down on the inside. I thought the return effort was solid enough. Granted, it wasn't on the grass. You go back to the Bourbon last year. I thought that was a solid enough effort, kind of grinded away at the end of the run. Maybe he doesn't have a brilliant turn of foot, but if this turns into a bit of a war of attrition where they go an honest clip early and it starts to fall apart a little bit late, I think this is one who could take advantage of it from combination of off the pace running style and from a stamina standpoint, shouldn't have any kind of an issue. So, again, maybe not the most likely winner, but 5-1 right now. maybe one you want to throw in if you were initially overlooking before we started this thing?
I was with Red Danger in this spot, a little surprised by this amount of money, but I think it's a little bit interesting, at least as another horse. I think that the race should be run to suit. JK, while we have you, run us through just a couple of your stronger opinions later on the card.
At Santa Anita, in the, was it San Felipe now? I always forget the names. San Felipe now? Yeah, San Felipe. I love in the 6 race. I love Forbidden Kingdom. This is the type of horse that, I'm a big pace figures player, and when I see a horse that lays down pace figures like that and still has a final time, I don't care if they're going 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs. It feels like the type of horse that will be able to relax, will be able to finish, even though tactical enough. I love that horse in there. If that horse wins, then I'll have tickets alive. That's for sure. But yeah, Forbidden Kingdom was one that I was really interested in. And then also Howling Time in the Fountain of Youth, a horse that kind of that 2-year-old angle situation we talk about all the time, where you see these horses that run these performances as two-year-olds, then they just kind of take a while to get back to the races as 3-year-olds. And then you start comparing their numbers to what horses are running now currently in the spring as 3-year-olds. And I think Howling Time can just make a little bit of a step moving in the right direction, get a little bit of pace to run into, and at a nice price could be tough.
The horse that interests me on that very similar angle, JK, potentially, is High Oak, who ran that monster, very fast race in his second to last. Hasn't been seen in months. I mean, I guess it's a little bit mixed signals, but that angle, mixed signals in the fact that he's been away, supposedly was targeting the swale, comes back here, things haven't gone to plan. But based on that speed points for age angle, he's one I want somewhere. Is he going to be on your tickets, High Oak?
Look, I love the owner, Lee Einseidler, and I root for Lee in all situations. It just feels a little bit like a rush job. Like you mentioned, there was we were going to do this, but now we're going to do this, and now we're doing this. And look, I get it. If I owned High Oak, I'd be doing the exact same thing. Let's see if the special animal can be ready. Let's see if he's going to appreciate a little bit of added ground. But I'm just a little bit concerned that maybe this is a little bit of like the second and third plan.
Yes, we talk a lot on the shows about Bill Mott with a target over on the In the Money Players podcast, the Matt Bernier show. These concepts have come up, and this is Bill Mott with a without a target, essentially. I mean, the target isn't today. Let's put it that way. Where do you stand on High Oak, Matt?
Yeah, look, I loved him before that hopeful. I thought his run in the Saratoga Special was really incredible, and kind of thought it was going to be a harbinger of things to come. And for whatever reason, the hopeful didn't work out. He's been gone for a long time. Kind of to Jonathan's point, maybe this is a little too much too soon, because, this may not be a field littered with superstars, but I think it's a pretty good field as far as the 3-year-olds are concerned. We'll find out. I think he's probably going to need one before you see his best, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if all of a sudden, if Bill Mott was able to get a horse ready to roll off the bench.
We will dive deeper into the Fountain of Youth and all the stakes in this window and beyond on First Saturday. For now, though, we're going to let you, JK, get on with your day. Are you in the Planet Texas? That looks like the home studio in the Planet Texas. I could have used that as part of your intro.
Yeah, you didn't hear Austin. He just threw a touchdown in Madden. He was screaming in the background.
Tell him we said hello for sure, JK. Enjoy your weekend. And we're going to do something a little bit different here. We're actually going to go to the race call. We've got Pete Aiello going to be bringing it to us, as you can see on the screen there, loading now as we're about to kick off
Red
the
Danger
Palm
and the
Beach
pink colors of
All-Turf.
Silverton Hill to the outside. They're at the post. And they're off in the Palm Beach. Excellent beginning for Bueno. And as expected, he's front and center early and clear a length and a half. Mom's Moon comes away in second from a headstrong Coinage. He's in tight, and he's fighting Louis Size. He won't settle. Out wide on the course goes Sosua Summer. Main event is just to his inside, followed by Credibility and Red Danger, and the early trailer is See My Meister. Separated by 7 lengths in the charge around the first turn. The advantage to Bueno. He's in front by a length. From the outside, Mom's Moon is second, Coinage. Now he's settled a bit better with Main Event 3 wide. Sosua Summer is next, followed by Credibility on his outside, and Red Danger. The trailer is See My Meister. Quarter time, not available. Bueno has the lead. He leads by a length. Mom's Moon is their second. Main Event is on the outside, and tucked in is Coinage. Wide on the course is Sua Summer. Red Danger following the run of Main Event at this stage. Credibility also trying to find some place to go. So Red Danger might have to tap on the brakes here. It looks like Credibility beat him to the spot. Out the back is See My Meister as they round the far turn. 3 wide, Main Event from the rail. Bueno. In between Mom's Moon. Coinage is ready to go, but he's got no place to go yet. So Sua Summer is next. Now Leparoux kickstarts Red Danger to the far outside. Credibility stuck in traffic. See My Meister underway from the back. Who do you like here? Off the turn and the stretch drive. The leader is still Bueno. Coinage loose and charging. And here he comes now from between horses. Main Event. There's an eighth of a mile to go. Main Event fights between. Coinage on the outside. Bueno toward the rail. Main Event very game. Coinage alongside. Coinage wins the Palm Beach. Coinage from Main Event second, closer third. Either Bueno or Red Danger.
There you have it. The Coinage getting the job done in the first race of this all-turf late pick 5. What were your thoughts on that race, Matt?
Tempo seemed a lot more moderate than I had anticipated it being. Once things kind of got sorted out, I didn't think they were going all that quick, and perhaps it kind of, evidenced by the fact that you had a couple of the pace setters that were in the photo. Coinage, though, give credit where credit's due. Good ride from Luis Saez, was able to kind of wait, tipped out, made his run, and was able to just get up in the shadow of the wire, gets the job done. You're not looking at any kind of a great price to kick things off, 2-1 shot, but big picture, better to be alive than to not be moving on in this kind of a wager. Again, with the $1 base and the 12% takeout, just being alive is more than enough at this point in the game.
It beats ripping, as the old saying goes. Let's go right to our next guest. We're joined by a guy we always love having on the shows over here. Super sharp guy when it comes to sports betting, when it comes to horses, and a fantastic broadcaster as well. We bring him in now. Chris Felica. Chris, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. Just get done watching that race as well. And I'm curious because, and I know Matt said you have patience from Luis Saez there, but boy, I was kind of cursing in here watching that race. Like second time on the turf today, where he's kind of strangling a horse that clearly wants to be on the lead, like he did with Never Surprised earlier with Todd Pletcher. So again, a horse that wanted to be on the lead, he took back. Unfortunately, this one did wind up getting home for him.
Indeed, I was my beef with Saez is in the other direction. I took a little stab with the Pletcher runner in the second race that looked for all the world like he was going to go by the Saez mount, and I feel like without every bit of his strength in that finish, that result would have worked a little bit better for me. But hey, that's how it goes sometimes here at the racetrack. How you doing overall today, Chris?
We're okay. I got losing that race. I used the Chad Brown horse on the outside as well, knocked me out of the early pick 5, but we got pick 4s pressed here, which is good. And then I'm obviously involved in most of the later all dirt pick 5s and the all turf pick 5s and the cross country. So most of my serious betting is yet to really take place.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Pick a race later that you're particularly excited about that you want to yap about. What is your strongest opinion of the day between Gulfstream and Santa Anita?
I would say definitely a Gulfstream. I am against. I'm against the favorite in the Fountain of Youth. I mean, Simplification, I think it's been getting talked up way too much over this week, and I don't know. I think there's a lot of speed in this race, and I think this horse needs the lead to win, and we'll see if Jose Ortiz can get him to the front in a race with plenty of other speed in there. Like I think it sets up for someone coming a little bit from off the piste. I know some of these earlier races have favored some front end horses. That maiden race, the Ralph Nix horse that won, that barely held off the They Knew horse of the day, bet down from 15-1 to 2-1. But I kind of like in our time, rather in due time rather. I'm sorry, the Kelly Breen horse in the Fountain of Youth needed that race off of the maiden win in Monmouth and the long break, and his second race against winners I think was really good, and I think that's kind of the trip in this race. that's going to ultimately result in a winner. So I kind of like In Due Time quite a bit in the Fountain of Youth.
We had
Chris,
Kelly.
that was where I was kind of looking. I was torn between he and Rattle and Roll. I guess the toughest thing I'm having a hard time making in this race, and I need to know your thoughts. What are you doing with, I guess it's Emmanuel or Emmanuel? I mean, he's been really impressive visually, but if we're just calling a spade, he's had the easiest setups, and he hasn't beaten a single horse that is going to be a graded stakes caliber runner down the road. What do you do with a horse like this who could be anything, but doesn't it feel like he's going to be way over bet?
I think he is probably going to be way over bet. I'm using him just because I don't want to have Todd Pletcher beat me with a horse that doesn't figure on Fountain of Youth Day, which has happened many, many times in my life. So I am going to use him as a just in case type of horse. But if you're asking me, do I like the horse? No, I don't think he fits in here as well. And I heard you talking with JK as well about High Oak. That's another horse that really intrigues me in here as well. Been off since the Hopeful in this first start off the layoff. Again, this looks like a horse that I think could go longer. It's just a question of being drawn so far outside of Gulfstream if that ultimately comes back to hurt him. But High Oak is a horse that I would definitely consider in here as well. And a horse that will probably be a good number in here.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to what the market does. I was sort of thinking maybe simplification would help make the market for Emmanuel. And the thing I like about Emmanuel a lot is just looking at his internal sectionals and the way he's finished up his races. There's something in my horse playing, my analysis of those internal fractions that makes me think this horse is just certain to improve. And when you combine that with his blood and the hands he's in, Matt, I think he's my top pick in the race, let's put it that way. And he doesn't have to win. It's a competitive group. But I think that's my main interest in him. But if we're wrong and if simplification ends up not being the buzz horse and Emmanuel becomes that buzz horse, I mean, it's not a horse you can get stuck into at too short of a price.
Well, and look, he's by no means am I saying I don't think there's ability here. I mean, you can clearly tell, especially with that run at Tampa. I just love the fact that when he got a little tap on the shoulder, he just spurted away. But I think it's one of those things where, again, we talk about it from a price standpoint. I'm willing to take a shot on tape with a horse that's going to be 10 or 15 to 1. If I'm just banking on the fact that the horse looks really good and has bloodlines, but is yet really to beat anything of substance and is going to be somewhere in that. I mean, I priced the horse out at 4 to 1. I still think that's kind of high. I'm thinking somewhere in the 3 to 1 range. To me, that's probably too short on sort of a prove it standpoint, but it's a good race. And I guess that would be the one thing. If I didn't think there was any other viable alternative, maybe I would be a little bit more inclined to just say, you know what, this is the horse that you're going to have to deal with, because there are intriguing alternatives that are going to be better prices. That's probably part of the reason that I don't want to say I'm cold watering him, but I'm trying to fade him in a spot like this. Acknowledging that, look, if he puts on a show this afternoon, all of a sudden he doesn't go from kind of a wise guy horse. He becomes one of the horses to beat.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to beat a horse like this, Always Dreaming, way back when, and I failed to do that often on the Triple Crown prep rail and then in the Derby. I still don't know how. So maybe his horse has kind of a little look, at least on PPs like that. I'm going to try and beat him and get beat by him. But I'm learning from my mistakes of the past. I am going to use him. What do you think about the race beforehand? You think Gabon is a little vulnerable favorite there? 8 to 5 morning line, speed, draws the rail. I mean, that's a tough ask, I think, for that horse who's going to be favorite. Don't you think?
I picked against him.
Go ahead.
I picked against him, but from a price point of view, I think he's a contender. But I thought there were some other ways you could potentially look to get a little bit cute in there. He's when a horse has figures and form like that, I don't particularly want to get beat by him. But I thought that Temple was an interesting alternative in that spot. And where did you land on that one, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I went with him in here simply because I had a hard time finding anybody else I loved. And I did think, and Chris, to your point, maybe it's he's going to be a bit of a pickle down on the inside. Maybe you're going to have horses trying to come over and make things a little bit tight on him. But I had a hard time really finding someone else that I could sink my teeth into. And while I won't be betting the horse to win because he's going to be far too short, I think, based on his actual chances of winning, you know, I do like the fact that he's not a need the lead type. If somebody's just hell bent on going to the front, you know, he showed in that most recent run in the McKnight, granted it was a candy trip, you know, that he is content sitting off, maybe trying to get first run on somebody who's trying to run from out of the clouds and get the job done. But I can understand trying to take a shot against a horse that's likely to be, I mean, I'm expecting him probably to push odds on. I think he's 8-5 on the line. I think he's probably a little bit shorter than that by the time they actually break from the gates.
Yeah, I'll use him, and I'll probably use two of the other maker horses that are a bit of a price. I think Glen County, off of that last race, kind of stuck down inside for a while off of the long layoff. That might be a horse that could pick up the pieces and correct the exact. And then Media Blitz, the horse on the outside, again, a horse that was kind of on the inside all the way around and really couldn't get out and ran a good race. I think those two horses, and Peter mentioned Temple as well. It always feels like in a race like this, the longer priced maker always seems to have a say in the end. So that's why I'm going to kind of use Media Blitz in Glen County as well.
Let's use that concept as a chance to pivot to this race at Santa Anita, where we have these two extremely well-bred, interesting Bob Baffert firsters. Chris, you've talked before on the shows about the idea of, just as there are public teams in sports betting that are always attracting undue money, it feels a little bit similar with Bob Baffert and his maidens in California, public horses. And of course, we do have the longer price versus the shorter price here. These type of races, do you tend to try to get involved? What is your approach if you do, or do you just say, hey, there's going to be another race in a few minutes, let's look at that?
In a race like this, where it's a short field and it looks like the winner will be one of the two Baffert runners, whether it's Tiba or Mauritius, you're really not the longer price of the two. Really, you're really not getting too much of a longer price. But yeah, it would be a guess if you're trying to throw a dart on anyone else in this race. Obviously, the connections, the ownership groups are two of his main clients. So odds are one of these two horses will win the race, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about them moving forward as we get towards the bigger races in the summer. But yeah, I'm gonna sit this race out and take the stand that there are more races throughout the day to bet on. I don't want to throw a dart with the firster here that isn't necessarily I think really a good bet.
That's one of the best things about our game. There is no ante. You can go get a soda and come back and take your trip notes and keep that powder dry, as it were, and look to go on from there. Matt, did you have a quick thought on this race? As you see them behind the gate, they're actually starting to load.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is checked in with our friend Michelle Yu earlier today about the horse that Ryan Hansen, her husband, has down on the inside. Go back and watch the replay. Oh, it's probably late now at this point, but the most recent workout moved really well from the half-mile pole to the quarter pole. And I talk about horses that can run on the turns. Maybe he's not good enough to win first out of the box. Breaking from the inside is no bargain against two good Baffert runners, it seems like. But I think one more bid. If it's not here today, this could be a horse that could be something down the road.
All right, good stuff. Chris, hang around one more minute. Watch this race with us. We'll button it up with you, and then,
sure.
And then we'll let you get on with your day.
Absolutely.
All right, there you have it. Favorite as advertised. We're getting crashed here. She's early. Naomi Tucker coming by to say hello, and I think to give Chris and Matt a hard time about their choices of where to be today. Was that what you were saying?
I was gonna say, sorry guys, it's pretty boring that you're not here. Like, come on.
I tried to last second backdoor my way into the contest, and I was going to fly down last night or the night before, and unfortunately, I didn't get the job done. So here I am at home.
What's your excuse, Chris?
I'm waiting to use my equity for a potential trip to Liverpool for a Champions League quarterfinal match. Okay. So I got to pick my spots, and being that we had the vacation a couple of weeks ago, now we're back, and I'm gonna once we officially move through on Tuesday, that's when hey, did you know Chip brought up that maybe we could go to Liverpool? That's when we're going to use that equity that we built up for that.
Maybe you can double it with a trip to Aintree if it happens to be around the Grand National. I mean, then you're really in business.
Did you know that I actually got a third photography prize at Aintree when I used to be a photographer?
No.
They gave me like 500 quid, and I was so proud of myself. So that's how I now will forever remember Aintree.
There you go.
Pictures.
There you go. Not nothing to do with the racing, but your own.
It was a racing atmospheric picture of like two ladies having some kind of a picnic, and they really liked it. So
good stuff. All right, we'll let you go until you're supposed to be here. We'll finish up with Chris. I'm glad you did. You'll be back. We've got all kinds of troublemakers here in the suite. Naomi Tucker joining us here for a minute. It is a lot of fun. I didn't want to let you go without giving us some commentary on the sports betting revolution we have going on in this country. Something that I feel like I've been an early adopter of. Somebody following the story closely. How do you feel like the rollout is going so far? And do you have anything in the sporting realm you're interested to tell us about that we should be participating in now that it's legal?
It's been great. I mean, Connecticut launched in October, I believe it was, and it's just kind of cool to not really have to be secretive about it and just be able to kind of fire whenever. And literally, that's all I've been doing all day. Is just kind of sit and fire at some money lines. And somehow Syracuse decided to blow a 10-point lead late and 3 straight turnovers and gave a game away against Miami. So that kind of hurt me. But no, it's been great. It's a good educational opportunity here in this state, and to be on Daily Wager and have more states involved and more states able to be open and more people listening, more people betting. It's a good thing. And I don't have anything in the hopper right yet that's still really well. Actually, I shouldn't say that. My free bets that I've been getting with all of my bets that I've been getting through Sugar House and DraftKings that I get here, I've literally been rotating them between Iga Swiatek to win the French Open and Liverpool to win the Champions League. Both are around 425, 450. So those are the two things I've been betting pretty religiously with their money over the last couple months. It was funny. I did get in on the Lakers under 36.5 on Tuesday, and now it's down to 34.5. So I hate giving that out because the best of that number is gone, but that's something else I feel pretty good about as well. But yeah, Iga Swiatek to win the French and Liverpool win Champions League would be a couple of things.
And remind folks the best places to follow all of your stuff you've got going on in the realm of
my Twitter handle. Obviously, the people follow me, Chris Felica, Daily Wager, ESPN.com. We got some golf columns and other specialty columns throughout the year. And Stanford Steve and I will be firing out another podcast to preview the NCAA tournament here in a week or so.
Great stuff, Chris. We'll have you on back soon. Really appreciate you dropping by.
Guys, have a great afternoon. Great being with you.
Good stuff. All right, Matt. It's a good atmosphere here. I got to say, we got the horses. They've just come out for this next year at Gulfstream. You can see them galloping by up here in the suite. Looks like some other interesting characters have popped by in there. We'll see who else we can find, and then we got a bunch of other folks who'll be joining us as well, as we've got 3 minutes to post for this 8th race at Gulfstream Park. What did you think about this one?
Well, this was one of the races that, everybody initially takes a look at all the stakes action, and then you go, okay, well, now let me pick up the pieces and see where some of the other races are and where they land. And I wish this was a stakes race, because I would have written about it for my article over on NBC Sports Edge, because maybe I'm way off. I think Soup and Sandwich is much better than that last race would suggest. And when you go back and watch the tape for him to get shuffled back as badly as he did, I should say, to put in the bid that he did off of a few month layoff, flattened out understandably at the end, never changed leads, which I'm never going to be a fan of. But the horse has always been quirky. He's always had his little, starts and fits throughout his career. But I think the talent has always been there. And with a cleaner break, and I like the fact he's on the outside here this afternoon, I do think he's in with a pretty decent chance to get the job done. He's 9-2. And especially when you compare it to some of the other horses that are taking money. Stage Raider, if you take out that sloppy track victory at Keeneland, I mean, what is his biggest sort of feather in his cap? The fact that he's Justify's little brother, basically. I mean, that's what I think most people know him for. And then, to be fair, Prevalence is a horse that I really liked in his first couple starts, and he's only run a few times since then, but he just hasn't improved. Soup and Sandwich, I still think you have every reason to believe you've got a forward move coming, second off the bench here after a disastrous trip that was much better than it looks on paper. And 9-2 is a very, very fair price. So Soup and Sandwich for me on the outside.
You've name-checked the 3 horses that I thought were interesting in this spot. Looking at the prices, nothing's making me do a cartwheel. But you did have to admire the way that Soup and Sandwich finished last time. I thought that it was a very curious ride on Stage Raider the last time, and that might have contributed to the final time not being as impressive as the race 2 back. But keying off that race 2 back, I thought, he had to be on tickets. And then Prevalence, I thought, was just sort of obvious and interesting. Licensed to be short off the bench, not unlike Soup and Sandwich. Finished up that race very well. Now, second time layoff, and added ground should be his friend. I was thinking about just messing around with those 3, with the hope that a couple of the others in here would be making the market for us in number 1, Liam, and then we also have somebody else is taking a little bit of money too. Yeah, the 3, Chocolate Bar. Do you give the 1 or the 3 much count in here?
Well, Liam, I think you're basing, or you're hoping anyway, that you're going to get back to the run 2 starts back, and maybe the Fred Hooper was just a little bit too tough at this point. The equipment change is interesting to see. The Lasix also goes back on, so maybe you'll get an improved effort there. Also, I don't know, we've talked about the jockey sort of musical chairs piece. Saez rode Soup and Sandwich last out, I believe. Now he's down on the inside for Pletcher, so do with that what you will. But I know Raphael Hernandez, who was listed, and I assume it's still him, is one who rides for Mark Cassidy frequently. So I'm not too terribly worried about that. Chocolate Bar, part of me doesn't believe he's good enough to win, but he feels like a nice horse that you could throw in underneath if you were playing a try or a super high 5, something like that, just because I think you still have improvement from many of these others potentially. And Chocolate Bar, after 19 starts, realistically, what's he going to run? Is he going to run 100 buyer here today? I'd be very surprised. I think you're probably going to get a low, maybe a mid 90. And for that to be good enough, you need one of the other 4 that we've talked about not to improve. And that to me seems unlikely. But if you like the horse, you're getting 6-1. That translates to roughly 14% chance. I think it's still a little bit on the expensive side there. I would be leaning more toward that 8 or 10-1 range. But for an underneath type, yeah, I could see it.
Let's take a quick look, if this doesn't mess you up, Producer Craig, at the UBC leaderboard. I don't know if you can easily toggle that. If it doesn't happen, I'll just assume that we'll do it after. But it seemed like we might have a minute here to go through. At a big name in the contest world, your former castmate, Christian Helmer, is on top right now. Ron Myers, who's a former Kentucky Derby betting challenge winner, in second, also with a big number, 24-5. Dick Girardi, Ken Seaman, what a year he had last year. Great to see him up there as well. Michael Kalaptis, Seth Morris, Stephen Thompson, The Undertaker, Dave Portnoy. Hey, I heard of him. He's up there in the top 10 as well. George Scott and Kevin Willett rounding out the top 10. Oh, the 11th place guy, Ben Wander. He's sitting in the suite out here. If he continues to do well, we'll bring him in. And more big names as well. Don Chung, former winner of one of the Woodbine contests. Mark Strife, who's done a whole lot in the contest world. You can see if you're on easily toggle within First Bet, Express Bet rather, to get to that Ultimate Betting Challenge leaderboard and see. We'll be giving updates throughout the show as we're getting ready for the horses to get into the gate here for this 8th race. We can do a couple more shout-outs real quick. Oh, yeah, hit me.
We didn't even really get a chance to digest that the horse that Baffert just rolled out ran a hole in the wind.
Yeah, that was a super effort.
That was a big effort. This is a horse that had been working head and head with a stakes caliber runner who's sort of in the 89 to 90 buyer range. I'm going to assume that's pretty darn close to it, knowing that it's early in the day and we don't know how fast the track is, fast or slow. But visually, that horse ticked all the boxes right there. And guess what? Shockingly enough, it's another gun runner.
Amazing. And a very speedy dam. Looking at that dam, I think was, if I'm remembering the horse right, very, very impressive horse, like a 16-time winner, won the maiden going 5. Very, very speedy. We'll see. I don't remember if she got as she got older, if she had done much to stretch out. I don't think there have been any siblings to make it to the races. So definitely some questions to answer in terms of pedigree stuff. But anytime they win like that and they're in the, the Baffert runner, you start thinking that you might have a future stakes horse on your hands.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it.
Let's do a couple shout outs while they get ready to go in the gate as well. We've got Joan Moore joining in from La Puente, California. Dave says hello. Felipe from Santa Anita Park and Inglewood, clearly a big California racing fan. Felipe is. We've got Graciano. Elliot had posted a bet. That's not a terrible idea. If you want to get involved in the show and give us some opinions, well, let us know your numbers, what kind of tickets you're playing over on First Racing. Who do you have in these all dirt coast-to-coast pick 5, the all turf coast-to-coast pick 5? We've got a little bit of time, just a little, on the coast-to-coast dirt bet. That hasn't started yet. Same deal with that one. Go into your ADW. You're going to select 1DN to be able to play that. It's not going to pop up on your regular wagering screen, but you can let us know who you think the key horses are in there as well. It's got a lot of exciting stuff coming up over the course of the next few hours here at Gulfstream Park and across the country at Santa Anita. If I made you pick one race today that you're really excited about watching, Matt, which would it be?
Oh boy, watching or betting?
Watching specifically.
Probably the Gulfstream Park Mile, because I think you've got some horses who are either borderline grade 1 or could potentially be grade 1. And you've got a couple in there, and we'll talk about it. There's a horse in there that I'm taking a shot on that it could very easily get exposed this afternoon or could prove that he actually can class up. But I think there are so many dynamics in that race purely from a talent standpoint that could be sort of a precursor of, we may look back at this race and say, you know what, that was a pretty good one-turn mile down in South Florida, and maybe it ended up being a key race, whether it's the Met, whether it's the 7/8 stakes races, something like the Churchill Downs, or we get to Saratoga and you look at the Forego or any of those kind of races. I'd be very curious to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. That'll be during the broadcast, so we'll put a pin in that and we'll come back to it a little bit later. So we're getting ready here for the 8th at Gulfstream. I'm going to mess around in those exactas with those 3 runners we talked about: Soup and Sandwich, Stage Raider, and Prevalence. What is your wagering approach here, Matt?
I'm just betting Soup and Sandwich to win. Last I saw, he was 4-1 or 9-2. I haven't seen since, but I'm still seeing 9-2 over here.
They're off at Gulfstream. We'll see if we can get this audio back. Maybe, Craig. Maybe not. We were meant to have the audio. It was working when we tested it before. I'm concerned about the noise you're going to hear from me during this race.
Meanwhile, Liam moves through at the rail to put a neck in front. So it will be Liam by a neck over Hide the Demon and Prevalence with Soup and Sandwich on the outside. At the rail, it's Chocolate Bar drafting along under Castellano, only 2 lengths off the pace. Then back between to King's Ovation. Deep on the course, Awesome Jerry, widest of all, Manor House. And after some early traffic trouble, Stage Raider drops a long way behind, but they are going quickly as the quarter time was 23-1. Less than 5/8 from home. The leader is Liam by half a length. Prevalence is second. Soup and Sandwich, he's had a good run of it. And Raphael Hernandez is on the go with him. Another good trip for Chocolate Bar, 4th behind the speed. Running home is King's Ovation. That's all for Hide the Demon. Manor House is being out-kicked. So is Awesome Jerry, and Stage Raider yet to be heard from. The half mile was 45-2. They run now to the top of the stretch. 3 wide, Soup and Sandwich. Prevalence in the 2-path. Liam throws out the anchor. Chocolate Bar tacks on. He's now 3rd. Trying to rally from the back. Here's Stage Raider. Stage Raider swung to the center by Jose Ortiz, and they're at the top of the stretch. 3/4, 9-4. Prevalence in front now by 2. Soup and Sandwich is second. Chocolate Bar on the outside. 1/8 of a mile to go. Prevalence, he has the lead and he's long gone. Chocolate Bar is up into second, but he's second behind Prevalence, who's clear to the wire. Prevalence to win by as much as he wants. Call it 5. Chocolate Bar second. Soup and Sandwich third. Awesome Jerry fourth. And then Stage Raider 34-4.
Pretty nice effort there from Prevalence, who goes off at a backable 5-1, making me question my approach to wagering in that one, Matt. Your skepticism of Stage Raider, I think, proved warranted. Did you see an excuse? It can be hard when you're just watching live. That's why we watch the replays. But looked to me like was in a good position and just didn't fire on.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we harp on speed figures so frequently, but there's a reason, because they're an assessment of how fast a horse is. And, to be fair, we talked about how perhaps one of these horses could take a step forward in relation to a horse like Chocolate Bar. Chocolate Bar probably ran his race. Low 90, that would be my guess, maybe a mid 90, not good enough to get it done. Prevalence probably took that step forward that I was hopeful Soup and Sandwich would. For a long time, I thought Soup and Sandwich was in a great spot, and then Prevalence just cut the corner and kicked away and looked like the horse that we had seen in those first couple starts down at Gulfstream last year. So all around, I thought it was a really good effort from this horse. I thought it was a good effort from Chocolate Bar. Hopefully somebody used him underneath like we suggested. And Stage Raider, I don't want to say vindicated, but, he was a little bit sluggish going into it, and he still got some to find out.
I see we have another guest waiting in our virtual green room, who I'm really thrilled to have on these In the Money airwaves, one of the most respected handicappers around. There he is, Jeff Siegel. How are things, my friend?
Everything is great. I'm thrilled that I figured out how to work this thing. I'm an old guy, and technology to me is, I'm back in the 70s, but it looks great, guys. I've been watching you, and it looks great show so far.
Oh, you're very kind. It's great to have you here with us, my friend, for this first Saturday. A new idea. You mentioned you're a racetrack veteran. I have to imagine when a track, not just because you're affiliated with them, but you got to be excited when they do something new and exciting that feels sure to work and provide great racing at a time where it can be a little more bread and butter sometimes. No,
this is great. This is a great idea, and I don't think it's going to be the last time we do this. I mean, you have two great racetracks during the winter and the spring, and you might as well marry them and put on one show, but put on two great shows. And the racing is fantastic. And I'm home right now because I'm with you guys. But as soon as we're finished, I'm going to hop in my car, go down the freeway, the 210, and I'll be there in 5 minutes. So awesome. I can't wait to get there to see the big races later in the day here at Santa Anita. In the meantime, I'm enjoying great racing at Gulfstream as well.
I love the way the races are staggered. It's fantastic to see. Sometimes even when tracks have the same ownership group, they don't necessarily get perfectly coordinated the way we have it today. I mean, as a racing fan, I think it makes it a more consumable product when it's laid out the way that Santa Anita and Gulfstream have done it today.
No question about it. I mean, here in California, we have this with Golden Gate Fields every 15 minutes. Now, Golden Gate Field's not running today. They'll be running Monday. Because we wanted to marry the two tracks with Gulfstream and Santa Anita, but it's working out great. It really is. I mean, there's no lag. I mean, every time you see a race, if you don't hit it, it's okay. You got another one coming up in a few minutes, and you can get played. Lots of action, and that's what people want these days. In the old days, and I always refer to the old days because that's the only thing I can remember now. Is that in the 60s, and I used to go to the racetrack, and it didn't seem like there was that much time in between races. You go to the paddock, you watch the horses, you make your bet, you watch the replay. But now, in this day and age, you want them now. You want to get it on. Okay, that race is gone. Let's pick up the next one. There's always another chance to make some money. So it's working out fantastic. And again, I'm sure that we'll be doing this again.
Jeff, the stakes action. The stakes action in Southern California going to start shortly. We've still got a little bit of time. One more race before we get off with the San Carlos. Is there one horse in any of the stakes races at Santa Anita that you're most interested in, hopefully betting on, assuming the price is what you deem fair?
Yeah, there actually is. In the Kilroe Mile goes as the 10th race. There's a colt there named Beyond Brilliant who is facing older horses. He was a Grade 1 winner as a 3-year-old. Ran second in the Mathis Mile on opening day here back in December against 3-year-olds. Got beat that day, but that was the dirt. And I really believe he's a better horse on grass. Lightly raced colt. He's if you look at his form, it looks like he needs the lead to win. All his wins have all been gate to wire. Although he did run reasonably well in the Twilight Derby from way back. I think now that he's matured and the way I've watched him train in the last few weeks, I think he can kind of do anything you want with him. And while he's drawn in the 3-hole and he should be forwardly placed, if Victor Espinoza decides that maybe he wants to tuck back, I won't be upset. If he makes the lead, all the better. He's 8-1 in the morning line, and I really think he's going to be a really good 4-year-old. This is obviously a very tough, contentious race, but in the rolling exotics, I think at 8-1, I'll get close to that. I don't know about the win pool, but Beyond Brilliant to me is a gamble, and that's what I'm looking forward to in the 10th race.
We've looked ahead there at Santa Anita. Let's look back for a minute, Jeff. Did you have a chance to watch that last race, and how good did you think that winner was?
Yeah, I did. I was watching that race, and that's a colt. Are you talking about Gulfstream, no, or the race at Santa Anita?
The Baffert killer.
Yeah. He's trained really well. He had trained really well, so it wasn't surprising that he ran as well. You know, when you give 1.7 million, these guys, they don't make many mistakes. I'm telling you, they don't always turn out to be American Pharoah or Justified, but they usually can run. And this colt had trained well. He had outworked a colt that had won his debut by 5, and he had kind of played with him, and so it wasn't surprising. I was kind of shocked that he was 1-2 because Baffert's other colt who ran second, he trained well too. I wasn't really sure who the better of the two was, but Bob kind of made that decision when he's pretty, he puts the right rider on the right horse. You kind of figure that's what he's looking for. But this colt, not only did he win, and not only did he run fast, but he ran like a colt that's going to go on. I would not be surprised at all if he, goes on in the spring and the summer to become a very, very important 3-year-old on the national scene. Obviously, the Derby is out, but there are plenty of races after that he can show his talents. Good colt for sure. Tabia.
Shout outs to some folks making comments on the feed. Daryl and Bertrand, if you're out there, let us know what you think. Let us know where in the world you are watching from. We've got another guest we might be able to pop in here ahead of this next race at Santa Anita. I'm trying to see if she's ready. I'm looking for signs she's ready. I see signs that she's ready. Let's pop her in here too, producer Craig, as we're now also joined, in addition to our fantastic guest, Jeff Siegel, by the Michelle Yu, at the Michelle Yu. And you know her from the Santa Anita simulcast feed. Fantastic work she does covering racing literally all around the world, as well as her show, The Owner's Box. How are things at the plant out there?
Oh, they're all right. Just enjoying the weather while it holds for us right now. The skies back here are looking a little dark. I don't know if you can see them. We had some ominous clouds coming in.
Generally speaking, though, since the deluge from the other day, it's been okay out there. I mean, is it coming into play in the way you're looking at these races?
We had no deluge. There was no rain.
There wasn't. I heard that
false advertising.
Fake news, as it were. But okay, so we're fast and firm, and everything's happy, and we're just doing an anti-rain dance. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, we are. We're doing the anti-rain dance. We got food trucks. They can't rain our parade.
Michelle, let's ask you straight away your thoughts about this upcoming race at Santa Anita. Jeff, we're going to bring you eventually in on that topic as well. We've got a starter allowance for fillies and mares going 4 and up. Fillies and mares going 5.5 on the turf. What did you think? What did you think about this one, Michelle?
So this is another leg of our starter series for these fillies that have started for 25 or less in 2020, 2021, or 2022. So some of these have tangled heads already. I liked Bristol Bayou in here, even though she's winless on the grass. I just think that from a class standpoint, she's been just on point. This was, sometimes you look back at those claims that you lose the shakes on, you're like, that's all right. This is a filly we lost the shake on that has just gutted us ever since, watching her just reel off win after win after win after win. So I think that she definitely deserves respect in here. I also like the outside Stormin' Lady. Last time out, she ran 4th, beaten by Savvy Girl, her stablemate, and On Purpose, and a couple other foes in here. But I think that she just needed the more ground. I think 5 is a little too short for her from her come from behind running style. And I remember Jess afterwards saying, I might have chosen the wrong horse today, but not next time. I'm going to catch Savvy Gal next time. So I like Storm and Lady in here because I think Jess had some confidence in here. And then the Hubs has the 3 Respectfully. She bled in the Fleet Treat pretty aggressively, which is why we gave her the time off. We brought her back thinking that 5 might be a smidge short, and she just didn't get a very great trip that day. She's a filly that does her best running on the lead. JJ didn't get her on the front end. He kind of had her held up, and overall, I wanted to see her on the front, and she wasn't. So I'm hoping that today he's going to send her right out of the gate, and hopefully that gets her back to the form that we've seen from her last year.
Jeff, let's bring you back in for a thought on this one. Where's your money going?
Well, honestly, I mean, this is the one reason I don't really have a great feel for it. Honestly, they're evenly matched. You've got a Bay Area shipper, Sadie Bluegrass, who earned a big number on the all weather last time out, but she's run well on this grass course in the past. And Jonathan Long wins everything at Golden Gate, and he doesn't win a whole lot down here. He's won 3 for 41 the last I checked. So I'm not really sure about Sadie Bluegrass, but she's a tough mare. She's won 11 out of 19, which is very admirable. She can win a photo. She can draw off. She can sit, stalk, and go. So I'm looking at her, and whatever price she's at, she's 5-2. I guess that's all right. But Savvy Gal, who won her last start, if you look at her form, every time they send her, she gives it up, and every time they grab her and get her some cover and let her run the last furlong, she fires. So hopefully Drayden Van Dyke will ride her this race like she did last time, and that is don't take a hold and going 5.5, let her run the last part. Storming Lady absolutely has a shot here on the outside. She'll draft over and get settle and make a run. And Bristol Bayou, as Michelle pointed out, she can win. She can win at this level, but she's 0 for 9 on grass, and that's what concerns me. So I'm not sure what she's going to do. And I think Ryan's filly, Respectfully, did not have a good trip last time out, and she's certainly capable of fitting with this group at a big price. I'd throw her in somewhere, but I've named just about every horse in the race because that's the way I look at it. It's just really, really tough, and they'll probably finish in a heap. I'll maybe give an edge to Sadie Bluegrass, but they'll trust me, not a real confident pick.
It's a competitive heat. Matt, any more clarity for you in this spot?
I went 5-6. I thought Savvy Gal was pretty good in that last starter allowance. I liked the fact, like Jeff said, she was covered up in between horses. She was always traveling well. And then finally, when Drayden was able to get her out into the clear, she kicked on. She popped to her left lead at the end, but that didn't really bother me too much. Get an extra half furlong to work with here in this spot. And then as far as the Northern California shipper coming down, she's certainly better on synthetic, it would seem, but I think she's run some really competitive races on the grass, and I don't think she's totally without a chance in here. I'm a little surprised she's 3-1. I figured she'd be a little bit higher than that, but you can tell by the tote. You've got 5 horses between 3 and 5-1, so this is a wide open affair. I ended up going 5-6.
Okay, lots of thoughts on that one. If you made me pick, I would have picked Savvy Gal, though Michelle's note on the race made me a little bit nervous about that opinion. Let's send this one out to Frank Miramati for the call. And yeah, if you guys stick around, we'll chat with you for 1 minute after, and then I promise I'll let you get on with your lives.
And they're off. Very even beginning. On Purpose in the center, but a group of almost all of them lining up with My Little Runaway coming through on the inside quicker than all now and takes the lead from Respectfully in second. Sadie Bluegrass not far away, 3 wide third past the half-mile pole. Then
Come on, JJ.
On Purpose in the blue at the rail. Storming Lady, Bristol Bayou is moving through on the inside, needs to find some room, looking for a seam and getting it now. 2 more back to Savvy Gal, who trails. Rounding the turn, it's My Little Runaway now opening up a length and a half on Respectfully in second. At the rail, On Purpose, a ground-saving third. Bristol Bayou is in behind her. As they come to the 8th pole, My Little Runaway still with a 2-length lead. On Purpose closing the gap stoutly in between horses. Far outside, Savvy Gal in the red is really coming home fast. And Savvy Gal blows by them all down on the inside. Bristol Bayou, it will be Savvy Gal to win it by almost 2. Bristol Bayou takes the photo for second, close between My Little Runaway and Storm.
I realized we missed an opportunity, Michelle, to let you call that race, which you've done so effectively on these broadcasts before.
I thought you were gonna ask me. I was ready.
You had your colors and everything. Jeff, have you ever heard her race calling? It's pretty impressive.
I have not, but I've heard good word about it. I'm going to have that on my bucket list someday. I'm sure she's great at it. I used to call charts for the DRF, and I wasn't calling races, but I never could remember the names of the horses, so I always call them by, the Whittingham horse by 2. That thing I bet on is running second, and you know how that goes. And finally, the chart caller. This goes back a ways. The chart guy who was taking this. It was Jude Feld, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine. He said, sure, you're good at a lot of things. This isn't one of them. And I said, you're right. That's the last one I'll ever call. That was it. I couldn't remember horses' names. I knew who they were. I just couldn't get it out.
Jeff, give us your condensed version story of how you got into racing to the degree that you did, because I can tell it's been a journey.
I really don't remember. Well, obviously, my father introduced me. I remember the first horse race I ever remembered was the match race between Swaps and Nashua in 55, and I remember watching on the television set we had was 8 inches, whatever it was, and I remember being very upset with Shoemaker's ride on Swaps. I mean, everybody knows on a match race you're supposed to go, and I was
Yes.
really mad, and I must have had some kind of knowledge because I was only 4 at the time, but I remember being really mad at the shoe, and I wanted to tell him how badly he rode that day. Now, I didn't know that Swaps was sore, so I didn't, but that's my first horse race. I saw my first horse race actually at the track in 57, so I go back a ways. I can remember those races better than I run the ones that ran yesterday, so that's what happens when you get light, but, still enjoy it, and I really, really have a good time. I have my one little filly that I have in my stable now. I used to have 60 or 70 of them, so I cut that back. But the one horse that I have gives me plenty of joy. So I'm still in it, still fighting.
Well, we'll have you back for a much longer visit too, Michelle. Before you go, I know you had a fun guest on Owner's Box last.
Just so you guys know, real quick, Pete, there's an inquiry going on for standing at a 3. It does not involve the winner, but the 2 horse. You saw the trouble that she caused, knocking 3 or 4 of them off stride, including my filly, who was trying to make a run. So there is an inquiry going on.
Interesting. Well, we'll keep track of that as we get ready going on. You have something planned for the Owner's Box yet this week, or does it depend on who wins today?
Probably depends. We used to schedule the Owner's Box guests really far out, and then people would forget, like me, and then we end up with all kinds of scheduling errors. So now it's a day before situation that we try and get people on.
It's a show like no other, the Owner's Box. Great insider perspective. Check it out, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Jeff and Michelle, thank you so much for coming on the stream today, and we'll be talking very soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
This cast of characters continues. We've got our official visit from Naomi teed up here as well. Let's see if we can get a line on what's going on in this inquiry, though. Matt, do you have a second screen up? Is it still flashing out there?
Yeah, they're still looking. I mean, so the 2 was the horse that was the pace setter, was tiring, drifted out pretty badly, impeded at least 3. The blue silks, the gray between, and then the black silks as well. Truth be told, you probably I would say you have to take this one down and put them behind the 3 horses that this one impeded, which is unfortunate for the folks involved with the 2. But I mean, she was getting out pretty bad there at the end. And again, just given the way everything stands and the way things work with, the reviews and, all that jazz about disqualifications and whatnot, she has to come down and go behind everyone else. That's assuming they do that. I think they should take her down, but we'll find out and see what they do. There's no doubt about the winner, who Jeff pointed out. Clearly, she's just a filly that's wanted to be taken back all along. Because when she's been forward, she doesn't finish that way. When they take her back, she kicks like a mule. So this is another really good effort. I'm not saying she's going to be a graded stakes runner, but she's very, very useful. She's going to be able to make plenty of money for the connections, and she does have a wicked turn of foot. So that's always something else to keep in mind when you're looking at races, and for whatever reason you see a horse that maybe You don't know why they're not running as well as you expect them to. Sometimes they genuinely have been ridden, I don't want to say improperly, but not the way that they want to be ridden. I always go back to First Dude, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to see more of him after Baffert got a hold of him. But the idea was on the East Coast, he was always forward. And then Baffert had him in the Hollywood Gold Cup, took him back off the pace, and he came with an unbelievable late kick. He probably wanted to be taken back all along, and he just, unfortunately, had been ridden the wrong way.
Yeah, that's part of race design as well, trying to figure out when those changes are going to be made and how horses are going to adapt to them. Let's bring in now from the Maryland simulcast feed and her own Talk Racing to Me podcast for her official visit on this afternoon's live stream, Naomi Tucker. I'm surprised she didn't just pop back here next to me again. But yeah, we're gonna bring her in now. Oh, and as I say that, I see her little window below disappeared. Somebody hit the wrong button. It probably wasn't Craig. So we'll wait for Naomi to come back. She'll be here. She'll be here momentarily. In the meantime,
and real quick, they did. They took the 2 down.
Okay, it seemed like the only decision. Great rock and roll name there, though. By the way, Matt, My Little Runaway, Del Shannon, great stuff. But yeah, not if
for anyone who watched the latest Dexter season, they'll understand that as well.
There you go. They always have some good music on that show. I think we've got her back now. Naomi Tucker, for real. This time it's for real. There she is. Where are you?
I had some headphone troubles. Well, I'm in the flamingo room because you told me that I shouldn't be bumping in at the sweet spot.
No. It worked out well. But this is good too.
Look, I thought this was kind of cute, right? I've got the screen in behind me. It's a bit, it's a bit noisy where you are, I thought. So I'll go to the quiet spot,
Fair
right?
enough.
No, I lost my headphones for 2 seconds because I had a call of Harry Rice who just came and dropped in. So we're here now. I was listening to you guys all before, and you were asking Matt about the inquiry because I was like, I've got all the screens up as well. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that seemed like a takedown that had to happen. No great surprise there. Let's pivot to this 9th race here at Gulfstream Park. Though we've got 3 minutes to this one, and we've got the Honey Fox Stakes coming up. 4-year-old and upwards fillies and mares going 1 mile on the turf. I thought this was a competitive and interesting race. Naomi, we'll throw it to you first, though, for your read on this one. Who did you come up with here?
So I'm actually going against the favorite in Italian right now, 2-1. I thought she got away with very, very slow fractions in her last couple. I don't see that happening today. Just look, I know, Pete, you use Time from US as well. Looking at the pace setup, she's going to have to work for that lead if she wants to get it. I'm just not sure it's going to leave her with enough energy in the latter stages. So I used kind of 2 horses that I thought were really interesting in here. The number 6 Giftless. I think she might have needed that race last time out at Gulfstream Park during the Pegasus World Cup day. After that 7 months layoff, I think she's going to move back up for that. I thought it was still a decent figure, came back pretty strong. I love the way the race flow is setting up for her. There's plenty of runners in here that are going to go to the front. I think Giftless is going to come from behind and try and snatch them late. I like Ohms as well, the number 7. I know you like her a little bit too. The only thing I'm kind of worried about is she's another one that seems to do well when sort of up the front. She'll have to probably contend with the stalking position in here. But I think she looks very, very strong here for trainer Michael Sidden. But of course, you are looking at a Chad Brown favorite. We know he won the very one earlier today with Virginia Joy, who was very much a horse to beat in that spot, but he delivered it. I just think that in Italian doesn't have the race setting up for what she likes.
I tend to agree on her talent, on the turn of foot she showed. I'm using her, but I'm all about Alms in this spot. This is a case where I agree with everything you said, questioning the trip, Naomi, but it's where I really love the combination of looking at pace figures and rider changes and tendencies. I think Rosario is the perfect looking for Alms, and I think he'll be able to get her to settle just off that pace, and he's so good at coaxing finish out of horses. I think Alms has a chance to take over from tired speed horses and kick on getting the jump on the deeper closers in this spot. Matt, how do you see this one?
I mean, look, I was all in on her in the Pegasus. I'm all in on her here. Gift list. I like all of her starts here in the United States. She hasn't had pace in all of them to run at, and she still comes with a big kick. To be honest, I agree entirely with Naomi. I feel like when you go back and watch the tape, she had an ideal trip in the Pegasus, but she ran kind of like a short horse, like she needed one. And I think she's going to be a tighter version off the bench. Lynch's numbers in general off of lengthy layoffs, not particularly good. I think now you're going to see a better version of her. She should get a good pace to run at. I don't think she'll be as close as she was on Pegasus Day. You know, maybe I don't want to say getting suckered into her just because I'm a fan, but she's shown some wicked turns of foot in her races here in the States. And I got to be honest, I think she should be the favorite over In Italian. In Italian is another one kind of similar to what we talked about with Felica about Emmanuel, however you want to say it. The idea of you've had Candy trips in your starts. You're going to have to do something a little bit different here. Maybe you are that good. I don't need to find out at 2-1 though.
Fair enough. We're going to see what that kick looks like against this group. This is one of those where at the prices, I think you're probably right to take a little more skeptical of a view, because this is one what in Italian, what appeals to me about her is visual and what I consider like a softer handicapping factor. The numbers are what I want to. I like to use my visual opinion to throw in a long shot or to upgrade a horse. But when a horse is behind on the numbers and is visually impressive and bet, typically best to tread lightly. William in our comments is with you guys on gift list, and as Naomi can attest, not necessarily the easiest one for the race caller to take on.
Well, clearly, I feel like I've been talking about horses so much today. When there's, the action is top of the charge across the two coasts, all of a sudden, all these names are kind of coming together a little bit. So, excuse me for that one. But gift list is very much the one that I'm on board with here. And like, I agree with everything that Matt says. I am not planning on finding out if the Chap Brown runner in here is as good as everyone thinks she is at 2-1.
Hey, Naomi, have you retweeted around the live stream yet? I a little bit of a host fail / PTF.
I did. I retweeted it.
Excellent.
Of course I did.
I forgot to tell everybody to do that. It was just next time. We'll remember that.
I saw it pop up on Gulfstream Park's stream, so I was retweeting it. I've been very active on social media. I'm gonna try and make my TikTok debut today as well. I have never done TikTok before in my entire life. I feel like I'm joining like the cool kids. I hope. Oh my God, I hope. I'm trying so hard.
There's another project. You can ultimately be the In the Money Media / First Racing TikTok person. What do you think?
I mean, gosh, let's hope my debut goes well, okay? Shall we just take it like one step at a time?
Fair enough. We gotta get ahead of things, Zach. Horse is getting ready to go in here. We'll be able to. Oh no, we've got the full screen up, and we shouldn't change. My view isn't. It's right happening over my left shoulder here, but it's not. You won't be able to see it that well. You're better off with that. We're going to let Pete.
We can hear the call through you. We can hear the call through your sound.
We'll get it. We'll get it. Craig has figured it all out. We'll get that now. We'll throw it to Pete Aiello. Stick around, Naomi, so we can chat with you for another minute after the race, if you would.
Waiting for Katama Moonlight and Navratilova. Navratilova draws the outside to complete the field. They're in the gate. Racing in the Honey Fox. Sharp start for Quinoa Tifa, moving at her inside. Jouster has speed. Katama Moonlight put into play early, and here's In Italian. The race favorite is offensive-minded, and the charge to the first turn. In Italian will cross and clear and lead by a length and a half. Up on the outside and 3 wide, Navratilova. In between horses and Quinoa Tifa. Jouster beaten to the punch today. She races back in 4th, followed 5th by Wakanaka. Saving ground is Bipartisanship. Then Katama Moonlight together with Sugar Fix. Joel Rosario has Alms 3rd last and about 8 lengths off the pace. Down at the rail, Gift List is 2nd last, and the early trailer is Lovely Lovey. Separated by 10 lengths through an opening quarter mile that went to In Italian. She's got her ears up, and she's cruising out here. She leads by 2 over big long shot Quinoa Tifa, who's in chase mode 2nd. Jouster is along the rail. Navratilova is 3 wide. Wakanaka in the red cap is about 4 lengths off the pace setter, followed by Katama Moonlight. Bipartisanship stays put at the fence. Sugar Fix is next ahead of Alms, then Gift List and Lovely Lovey. They round the forward turn. It's been an easy time of it for In Italian, who has the lead 3 parts of a length. The first to attack is Navratilova on the outside second. Jousters at the rail third. 3 back to an improving bipartisanship. Then Sugar Fix in the wrap the top of the stretch. With the advantage, it's still In Italian. She's in front, trying to squeeze through on the rail is Jouster. Navratilova on the outside. Bipartisanship is fourth. There's an eighth of a mile to go. And In Italian finishing up nicely. She's still clear, and she's going to win it. The Honey Fox goes to In Italian. She was sharp in victory while never headed. Up second is Wakanaka. Navratilova at a big price for third in 137 and 2.
Goes to show that jockeys and their agents, they handicap too. You can look at a race and think it's going to go very fast in the running, and then you can see, I'm not sure if the fractions were right that were posted, but you could tell from the way they were going, it was not the speed test we were concerned with. And In Italian is starting to look to me like a horse that has quite a future. You see how the figures come back and everything. But I was impressed with this effort. I know, obviously we talked about trying to beat the horse. How impressed were you with this run, Matt? Is this one where you're going to give In Italian a little more respect going forward, or do you think this was just a product of circumstances once again, and will you still be at the front of the line to try to bet against next time?
Well, no, I mean, to be fair, again, it's so difficult because the timing is all jacked up, but they went pretty quick, I thought, to the first turn. There was a line of horses out there, so she had to use to get out and clear. But then it did seem like they were able to kind of back it down a little bit down the backside. But at the same time, they were spread out by about 15 lengths. So I part of me wants to think this was a really big effort. I'm going to have to go back and watch the tape again because you had a couple horses run from the back. Wakanaka made a really nice late move. A couple of the other more fancied runners, Giftless and Alms, they didn't really pick their feet up too much. I'll be curious to see with a replay under the belt, but at first glance, I want to say I'm impressed by this.
Yeah, we didn't exactly cover ourselves in glory with our tips there, that's for sure. But, hey, that happens from time to time. Naomi, what were your takeaways from that run? I think you are muted, Naomi. We'll get her back in a second. There she is.
Oh, there you go. I was pressing the buttons here on my phone trying to make sure. Look, I'm kind of with Matt here. I felt like they did kind of run a little bit to the turn. I'm hoping to see the fractions in here because that, 50 for the half mile is really pedestrian. So I'm still a little bit hesitant to say that In Italian is kind of the next big thing. I want to make sure that those fractions were kind of honest. It looked like she showed them down a tiny bit down the backside, but Matt was saying as well, they were all strung out a little bit. I feel like there's two scenarios in here. Either it's correct and she was stringing them out. She was going fast enough up the front for them not to be able to kind of get to her down the backside. Or a lot of the jockeys didn't want to be that close or didn't want to be in front because they felt like they were on closing style horses. Not knocking anyone in here, but I have seen that happen, that jockeys don't make the move when they should be making it. I was definitely looking at some of the closes saying, hey, guys, I think you might have to get a move on in here. So I'm kind of going to do the wait and see approach here. I want to see what Time from US says. Want to see what the splits come back on. Of course, she looked very impressive. She took them gate to wire. But I'm still just a touch hesitant to kind of declare her that next big talent.
I can't imagine the clock is right.
No, probably not.
Right?
But it didn't look. I take your point. I thought it looked faster. And I don't trust this. I'll wait for the pros. Craig Mulkowski is going to go back with his video editing software, and he'll hopefully be able to retime and create fractions that are 100%. Yeah. By the way, I have talked to folks here at First and Stronach Group, and this is an issue that they're extremely aware of and sensitive to, and taking measures to fix. So,
and I'm not saying that to throw shade, but just trying to contextualize how fast did they actually go. Obviously they didn't go 26 in a piece for the opening quarter. They went faster.
There's the winner, by the way, the winner over the shoulder.
Kind
of cool. Okay, nice one.
If she's a horse that has the ability to use a little bit early and then come to hand and then still have something left to kick at the end, she'll certainly be a player. I'm trying to think from now, what are we in? This is the beginning of March. Is the Jenny Wiley at the beginning of April?
It is. Isn't that on the big kickoff weekend?
Bluegrass card? A mile and a 16th. I think that's what they run that race at. That seems very reasonable for a filly like this. If she is, if she's this good, maybe you take a shot there. I don't know. I mean, again, I'll be curious to see when we have a little bit more to really put it into context. But, to your point, Pete, she looked really good on the tape coming into the race, and she backed it up again here today. So I'll be curious to see, after all the dust settles, where this one looks.
Yeah, I thought she was able to, after that early to get position, walk the dog a little bit. But we'll see. Again, we'll have a lot more information before we have.
I think that's the correct term there, Pete. Walk the dog. It did look a little bit like that, so we're going to.
She finished up so well. It's earlier in my horse playing, I was always against the flow downgrade type horses, and I these days, I'm not saying I'm looking to be for them, but when the clock within looking at the sectional shows the ability, when they have every advantage and they just finish up average, you bet against those. But when they finish up the way she looked to visually finish up, coupled with the turn of foot I'd seen before from her, I try to keep those on side. That's my approach to it, just from a flow and clock point of view. Let's pivot, because we've got a big bet coming up. We saw those terrific handle on that all turf pick 5, the coast to coast all turf pick 5. We've got the dirt version of that kicking off with the 4th race at Santa Anita. I know Naomi, you did a video. There's the notice on screen, by the way, how to play the bet. You can find that under the track event menu on your ADW, and you just choose 1DN to get involved. We'll look for an update on the pool and what's going on with that. But I mean, based on, I would assume the dirt will handle better than the turf one, simply because having those 2 Triple Crown prep races in there, I think you get that much more attention. I know, Naomi, you posted a little video before about this. Who's your you have a key horse to build around?
So I thought that the pick 5 was a tricky one to really find a single. I was kind of going to go, do you want to go and single on Forbidden Kingdom in the San Felipe? Or do you want to use a price play in case he doesn't come in? I kind of like Cabo Spirit in there as well to kind of complement Forbidden Kingdom. But in the big cap, there was 2 horses I absolutely loved in there, Express Train as well as Stiletto Boy. So I'm kind of working my ticket around those. But I'm going to have to say that the fields are deep for this dirt pick 5. I mean, I really enjoyed looking at this. I actually liked the turf pick 5 as well. But I thought that in terms of the value that you're finding as a horse player, I feel like in the dirt pick 5, there's even more of it.
Seeing the leaderboard from the Ultimate Betting Challenge up there, Christian Helmer's making a big run today, out to an impressive lead. Lots of big names in behind him and lots of people with bullets left to fire. So all to play for there, but certainly a big name in the contest role we haven't heard from in a minute. Looking to remind folks, hey, I'm here too, in Christian Helmer's with this big run he's making. But of course, a lot left to play for with the rest of the Santa Anita card going on, and see what folks end up doing. Let's go back to you, Matt, for the same question we just chatted about with Naomi. What race for you is the key to this all dirt pick 5 sequence?
Well, I mean, I think it's a really interesting sequence because we've already talked about it a little bit earlier. The Fountain of Youth, it feels like you can make a case for as many as 6, maybe even 7 if you were really trying to get a little bit creative. The run out at Santa Anita, I think, maybe a little bit more formful, but I have to be honest, I don't totally trust Forbidden Kingdom. I fear he's a little bit of a runoff, and I'll be curious to see how that translates going a little bit longer. This upcoming race, for me, the kickoff leg, the complexion changed entirely. I'm stating the obvious when Brickyard Ride was withdrawn. 8 Rings I didn't love anyway. I wasn't going to use him. But now, the pace scenario, the complexion changes pretty significantly because you've got a horse like Canadian Pride who can show a little bit of early foot. You've got Principe Carlo who can show a little bit of early foot. Cezanne may just be better, but he's not going to be pushing the pace. I can't imagine. I think he's going to have to come from off of it. And at 1-5, I get it. You don't want to get too cute in these kind of giant pools, but I mean, 1-5 seems kind of outrageous to me with some of the other talent in this race.
Aggressive, that's for sure. Though it is a race that I think a lot of people have been just thrown into a little bit of confusion. We have 4 minutes before this one goes. We'll talk about it more extensively. But I did want to hit on a note because it made me smile when you mentioned that term runoff for Forbidden Kingdom, because I had a note in my write-up about this very issue, which is that in any other trainer's hands, I would be convinced this horse was a runoff and be betting against him. But Mandela, I mean, this feels to me like one of the things he is particularly good at. And even just looking at the work tab, and I love the fact that there's sort of a slow last work. Because it's Mandela, I'm willing to take the more optimistic view that he's going to be able to get him to stretch out that speed. We shall see if that ends up being accurate or not. At the end of the day, Naomi, where did you stand on Forbidden Kingdom?
So, of course, it was quite a thing that the speed of the speed came out, because all of a sudden you're kind of like, well, are they going to go? Is there going to be any flow? Because I really liked Shooter Shoot on the outside. He just clicked over to 9-2. I think it was 5-1 before that. But in his last race, Santa Anita Park was a similar scenario. They didn't go that fast early. Caught by the fact that if you look at the visual replay, he was right there on the pace. And this is a horse that tends to come from a little bit further behind. But that's also something that I think he's very good at, that it doesn't matter what the pace is, he's going to position himself accordingly. I think Victor Espinosa gave him a peach of a ride that they did just get bested by a neck on the day. But I thought that the way the pace involved, the way he landed himself kind of sort of just on the outside, I think he can do that again today. Look, I liked him more when there was a bit more pace tied on. But I think that with his flexibility, he can still kind of make a move into it, especially if you're looking at Cezanne being 1-5 right now. Look, I have him. Of course, you're going to have to use him. You'd be kicking yourself if you get beat by a 1-5 shot. But I find Shooter Shoot still, despite the speed being out, a lot more interesting.
I think he's the interesting horse. I agree. And the thing about a bet like this pick 5, you know you're getting player favorable terms. I'm okay with the idea. With so much good racing to come, I'm okay with the idea of just doing a ticket singling Shooter Shoot. And yeah, you might laugh at yourself for a minute if you get beat by the 1-5, but from an equity point of view, I
don't think you'd be laughing, Pete. You'd be upset.
You just, you sort of throw up your hands, and there's another race in 15 minutes. So either approach is understandable. What about you, Matt, specifically for this bet? What does your ticket look like in leg A?
Again, it's one of those that as large as the pool is, I'm still going to just try to construct it the way that I feel most comfortable with. It's not going to be a massive ticket. And in this first leg, Cezanne can win. I'm going to take a shot against him. I think the key to this race now for me is Edwin Maldonado. And I think if Canadian Pride, I think they just got to ride the hair off him. Get out of there and just send, and make somebody else make a move. Now, maybe that is going to be Principe Carlo. Maybe he can hang with him early on, and then it sets up for Cezanne, and this is all a moot point. But when you take out a horse that is such a clear pace horse in Brickyard Ride, and things are a little bit ambiguous, I think I think the bold sort of ventures can take advantage. And if they're aggressive with Canadian Pride, if Maldonado sends hard, I think there's a chance that they could end up kind of pulling the Brickyard Ride trip, scoop clear and say, come and catch me. And if that's the case, I would take my chances at the top of the lane if he's got a length on everybody.
I do think that this big favorite is going to get an absolutely perfect trip, and definitely think Shooter Shoot's job gets a little bit more complicated, but he shouldn't be too far. I think I think it'll be a good race. I think it'll be closer. I certainly think we can probably all agree that in ability terms, the 4 and the 9 are a lot closer in ability than the relative prices of 2-5 and 3-1 suggest. And I like your idea there, Matt, of trying to conjure a pace scenario where you can get something in at a little bit bigger of a price as we get ready here for this important race 4 at Santa Anita, which also kicks off their late pick 5 racing. Going to be continuing on. We've got big stuff the next few hours, going all the way to 8 o'clock. We will not be live streaming for that whole time. We are going to actually throw it over in 30 minutes to our friends, and we're going to be having after this race, we'll bring in Dan Torchman from America's Best Racing to talk about their live stream and what's happening there. They'll have it from 5 to 6. To watch along with that, you can go on the Gulfstream Park. Probably most of you are already watching on the Gulfstream Park feed or the Santa Anita feed. If you're watching in the Money feed, I think you may have to hop over to one of those for an hour before you end up coming back here. Then we'll be back on from 6 to 7. But the action doesn't stop there. To keep watching Santa Anita, because we've got this trio of grade ones. We'll focus on those more when we come back from our break. But it's an amazing few hours of racing, and it really is fantastic to have this much action this early in the year, that with this first Saturday that our friends at the Stronach Group are putting on. And with that, we're loading at Santa Anita. We're going to bring in our buddy Frank Miramati to give us the call for this San Carlos.
Hello. Wicked Trick and Shooter Shoot. And they're off in the San Carlos Stakes presented by FanDuel. Shooter Shoot bobbled at the start. Principe Carlo comes away with the early lead. The gray Canadian Pride moves to engage in second. And in between those two, Cezanne is up close today. Then it's Shooter Shoot fourth, only a length and a half off the lead while 4 wide. Phantom Dance has about 5 lengths to make up, and Wicked Trick is just outside of him. They're heading toward the half-mile pole. It's Canadian Pride narrowly in front. Cezanne just a neck back second. Principe Carlo outside of that pair. Shooter Shoot, 3 lengths off the lead. Another 3 back to Wicked Trick, and Phantom Dance inside of him with 3 furlongs to run. Canadian Pride, Cezanne, stride for stride. Principe Carlo outside of them, 3 of them across the track. Shooter Shoot has to come after them, as the first to tire is Canadian Pride. Principe Carlo and Cezanne turn for home. Cezanne is now asked to run. Opens up a half length on Principe Carlo, who battles brilliantly on the outside. 4 more to Shooter Shoot in third. Coming to the 16th pole, and Cezanne edges away a length and a half. Now it's 2, and Cezanne is too strong. He'll win the San Carlos Stakes presented by FanDuel by 2.5 easy lengths. Principe Carlo, a good second. Then it was Canadian Pride and Wicked Trick.
They ran to the odds there, or Cezanne ran to the odds anyway, getting a very nice ride coming into the race sweep. They're looking maybe in danger for half a second in the lane before pulling out more late, and looking pretty good in the process. But I'll tell you what, I'm keeping Shooter Shoot on my horse to watch list, guys. Between that break and the width of the move, I felt like had every taken care of late, had every excuse to empty out after a rough journey. Am I just being too kind to my own wager there, Naomi, or do you agree?
Look, of course I had my eyes on him from the get-go, and I'm thinking, oh my God, of course he doesn't break like you want him to break. I'm going to give him another go. I do feel like he flattened a little bit in the latter section, so I'd love to see a bit more verve of him late, but I think also that Victor just saw he wasn't going to get to the front at that point anymore, so I think he just kind of let him stride out, and I'm a big proponent of that. Come back again for the next race, so I'm definitely going to keep him on my list of horses to watch, but we kind of pointed up, Cezanne looked like he was going to get the perfect trip. There was, in the end, someone else that was setting the pace. Canadian Pride not as quick as we had hoped early. It was Principe Carlo who was making that move to the front and held on very, very strongly. So actually, he was, a touch better than I'd given him credit for early.
I thought he looked like winning for half a second, which would have been quite the upset to kick off that pick 5. Your thoughts on that one, Matt, and then we'll say goodbye to Naomi and bring in our next guest.
Yeah, I know they're waiting for the sensational star in a couple of weeks. I can't help but think Brickyard Ride would have won this race. He's fast.
I agree.
Far faster than the other two that were up there setting the pace. When Cezanne was right there in and amongst, you knew that was, a horse who's not naturally the fastest early on. For him to be a half length off of it throughout, it felt like it was a formality at that point. And I thought they would be much more aggressive early and try to take it to him. And instead, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about that. It didn't unfold the way that I had hoped that it would have in my head, but I can't help but think looking at this, that a horse like Brickyard Ride would have just run them off their feet.
Those are the chances you have to take it in these spots. And, you're playing horses at decent prices like you often do, Matt. You don't have to be right all that often. And when it doesn't go your way, you shrug and move on. But Naomi has tickets alive at least. Yeah, so good on her. Naomi, your job, should you choose to accept it, find us a place where we can watch these late Santa Anita races once Gulfstream finishes. Find us the cool spot to hang out and watch simulcast. Can you do that?
Well, actually, I just heard that my flight got late. I was supposed to move out of here at about 8:30. Now my flight's leaving at 10, so I can certainly hook you guys up with that one. I'm going to get my thinking hat on.
Good work. We'll be talking soon. Great having you on as ever. As you can hear the bugle in the background, heralding the horses onto the track for this 10th race. And we will bring in another guest to chat about it downstairs at Gulfstream. We've got Dan Torchman from ABR. Dan, how are things, my man?
Good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing well. We're all wearing hats.
Mine's not nearly as cool though.
Well, it's not nearly as cool. You're the only one not wearing it because you need to cover up bad hair. So take some solace in that.
That's a great spot you got there. You've got quite.
Yeah, where are you? Maybe I should have broadcast from down there instead of getting wind blown up here in the suite.
So it's good for now. Let's fingers crossed. I'm outside the Sport of Kings Theater on the second floor of Gulfstream Park, but the sun keeps, luckily right now it's behind some clouds behind me, so I'm not fully blown out. So for now we're good. The racing gods, the sun gods, all playing nice with us so far.
So a lot of people are going to automatically switch on the Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita simulcast feeds and see the ABR feed at when we hand it over to you in just about 25 minutes time. Some of us watching the In the Money feed may have to hop over to one of those two. What are some other ways folks can watch, and what are some ways folks can just stay abreast of all the content you're doing for horse players over at America's Best Racing?
Yeah, so we have really, like you guys, we've seen the value in doing this digital streaming around all big races, but specifically with the First Racing Group, they've realized the value of bringing racing to people where they are. So whether you're at home, whether you're out enjoying this Saturday afternoon somewhere else, you're watching on your phone, you can watch all this stuff streaming with the analysis. You watch the races, you bet along with us. You can't beat it. A lot of us don't have a lot of friends who really, know that much about racing, right? So we're your friends. Like, we're here for you. We're on your phone. You're on the go. We're here for you. And on big days like this, ABR in particular, we try to bring that experience to you wherever you are. And so the Road to the Derby live series is one that we've done with Gulfstream and Santa Anita over the past few years. So it is exactly what it sounds like, the Road to the Derby live. All the points races on the Road to the Derby that are at Gulfstream and Santa Anita, we like to bring to people. And so if you follow ABR's social media channels, and obviously if you're watching right now on Gulfstream Park or Santa Anita's Twitter, or you're watching on Facebook, you just stay right here. We'll bring it to you. We'll continue that coverage for the Road to the Derby races. And then in the coming weeks, we're looking forward to being at Santa Anita for the Santa Anita Derby, which will be exciting on April 9th. We'll be live on site. I'll have an actual set with real cameras. I won't be streaming off a balcony and hoping that the sun doesn't come out behind me. I'll actually have lights around me, so I don't have to worry about that stuff. But yeah, we'll bring you all that. So, and really, it's a two-way conversation. We always encourage people, drop a comment, ask questions, give us your opinions. That's what this is all about.
No doubt. The interactivity is one of the things we had so much fun with our Horse Player Happy Hour project and something we're looking to in here. With that in mind, shout out to David and Renee for dropping comments. Let us know who you are, where you are, and what you like. Those are the key questions today, and we've answered two of those three with you, Dan, so far. But what about the third and arguably most important one? Give us some opinions for a little bit later on.
Yeah, look, this Gulfstream Park Mile coming up in a couple of minutes, I think is a really intriguing race. I'm looking up at the board. I see 3-2 on Speaker's Corner. I'm not at all surprised. The only thing is, I figure Injunction, you're at 14-1. I think Injunction can go with him, right? So, what is he going to do? He's going to take sustained pressure from Injunction. You got New York Traffic. You've got two Saffies, right? So New York Traffic is obviously the one that's going to put pressure on. And for me, the way I kind of looked at this from a pace perspective was I thought the pace would be hot enough. Collaborate for me. Maybe he's a little bit of a wise guy horse, 7-1 right now. I like that price. The horse has shown a clear preference for running at Gulfstream. Looks really fit. Look, you look at those workouts. He's super fit, and he looks like he's coming into a massive race. The only question, of course, is this Lasix question. He hasn't run as well when he's been off Lasix. He's off Lasix today. So what do you do with him? I was able to go back, watch some replays, and make some excuses for him. And then also one of those most recent race off Lasix was over a wet track. And so, look, those are potential excuses. But at 8-1, I really like this horse. I think the pace will be hot. And I think you see Collaborate picking up pieces late. And I think he goes by.
There you go. Matt Bernier, how do you see this one?
Well, I mean, Pete, you know, and Dan, you know as well, I'm not afraid to embarrass myself with a selection from time to time. I've bet rather heavily on Injunction. This is a horse that is going to get the acid test. I have no idea if he can really handle the heat that he's going to be encountering for the first time here. But there's something to be said about a horse that has always been decent on dirt. And then they put blinkers on him. And his 2 starts with blinkers were both fabulous. He beat a decent enough field in that run at Churchill most recently. The 3rd place finisher came back and earned a 96 buyer in the next start. Injunction beat him by about 8 lengths. I'm envisioning a scenario in which Speaker's Corner goes. Injunction is glued to his flank. If they don't go super fast, that's the key. It just depends on how fast they decide to go. If it's reasonable, there's no place I'd rather be going a 1-turn mile than on or just off the lead at Gulfstream Park. It's just, to me, that is the trip that you want. He's paired up by her tops of 94. I often think that's a sort of a sign that you could get a forward move. And again, I'm not afraid to be wrong at 14-1. If the horse was 2-1, this would be a totally different story. But I'm willing to find out if I can look like a dummy here in about 2 minutes. But I think the price is right, and I think there's reason to believe that he could move forward. Maybe it's not good enough to win, but I'll find out at a $32 mutual.
This is a progressive horse, and your case makes sense. I mean, I do think you need the favorite to do some toe stubbing to get that scenario in. But again, you look at the prices, on whatever chance that might that could happen, you're getting compensated for it in terms of your price. So I mean, it's a logical case to me. I wish I could be so creative. I thought it was a cold 3-4. I don't love. I wanted to play this race for a closer, but I wasn't thrilled looking at like late sectionals about the chances of them coming running. I'll be honest though, my opinion is my opinion, and I'm going to bet my opinion. Don't get me wrong, but I wish my opinion was either of yours, because I think they're far more creative in this spot, and we certainly don't have to be right. Getting ready to go to the gate for this 10th race here, the Gulfstream Park Mile. But before we throw it over to Pete Aiello, Dan, tell us a little bit about who you're going to have on in your Road to the Derby coverage from 5 to 6. Who else can we look forward to seeing today?
So we're really excited. We're bringing on a couple of analysts, including Samantha Perry, who you may have seen this past summer at Monmouth Park. It's her first time doing a show live with us, so we're excited to have her on. Jessica Paquette, who, of course, does a lot, analysis at Colonial Downs, Sam Houston Race Park, and also has called a few races at Sam Houston. And then, of course, the incomparable, the wonderful and amazing, all over the place, Ren Carruthers, who's all over Breeders' Cup channels with Future Stars Forecast and all of her pedigree analysis. She comes in handy, especially this time of year. We're looking at 3-year-olds and trying to figure out which one of them is going to make that jump, which one of them is going to make distance stretching out. So really excited about the show.
It's going to be great. That's a great trio of guests. And we're going to make Jessica do double duty. We'll have her come on in the last hour as well. We've been doing a ton of stuff with her over at In the Money, and looking forward to watching. Let's send it to Pete Aiello for the call of race number 10.
They're at the post. Racing in the Gulfstream Park Mile. Smooth beginning for Speaker's Corner from down toward the inside. Fearless is ridden for some forward position, and here's the gray New York Traffic into the top flight. Not far away, Injunction as they run out of the chute. It's a pretty quick early pace with Injunction now sticking a neck in front. New York Traffic is there second, and Junior Alvarado with race favorite Speaker's Corner are down inside, and they're only a half length off the lead. Out wide on the course, but in hand is Collaborate, followed next by Endorsed. Next the Fence and Fearless. He's second last in front of Diamond Oops, who's last of the main group, and the big long shot Bourbon War not keeping up. The opening quarter, 22-4. Sprint-like fractions here, saving inside position and taking a narrow lead. Speaker's Corner is now in front. Endorsed, aggressively handled by Jose Ortiz. In between runners, he's a joint second. Injunction, a 3-wide third. Collaborate, 4-wide while fourth. From between runners and Diamond Oops, very much close enough if good enough. Fearless is hard ridden, but that's the way he does business. 3 wide in New York Traffic, and far back to Bourbon War as they round the far turn. 45 seconds for the opening half mile. Speaker's Corner has turned away all challenges, but there's still some to deal with. They include Fearless, who's going to get a rail run as Endorsed is backing up. Diamond Oops is scrubbed on with 2.5 lengths to raise and a quarter of a mile to raise it. But here's the matchup. It's Speaker's Corner Helmer, who turns first, still in front. He tries to get away from Fearless, who's up into second. New York Traffic is now third. But just when they thought they had a chance, Speaker's Corner bid this field a pleasant Saturday good afternoon. Speaker's Corner under Junior Alvarado, an easy winner of the Gulfstream Park Mile. He won by 5. Second was Fearless. Third was Endorsed. Fourth was Diamond Oops in 1:33 and 4. Racehorse time.
Pretty impressive stuff from Speaker's Corner, who just had too much for them early and late in that spot. Dan, we're going to let you get about your day, but I know you do have another guest you wanted to mention who's going to be on later. And then, of course, I wanted to harass you and tell people to make sure they stick around when they're watching the ABR feed for the last hour we're going to be doing here. Lots of coverage of all the late stuff at Santa Anita coming, and we want folks to keep it locked on the Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park media feeds.
Well, I'm glad I could come on and just give such a great pick here in the Gulfstream Park Mile. So I can assure you we can only improve off of that. Yeah, I also did want to mention Chase Sessoms. I kind of shortened it up because I saw them loading to the gate. Chase Sessoms will also be live with us. If you're on Twitter, he's at of Oaklawn, and he's on like a million different live shows with us now. He's a really funny guy and a great handicapper. So starting at 5 o'clock Eastern, join us. Road to the Derby live. We're really excited. Thank you guys for having me on, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Cheers, Dan. For more great stuff from Dan, check out his social media. Check out americasbestracing.com. Not a whole lot to analyze in that race, right, Matt? I mean, they basically ran to the paper in not the most creative fashion.
I was chatting with Nick Luck yesterday. He's down there. They're on NBC right now, or CNBC, I should say. And I said I was a little surprised that horse was not pointed to Dubai following the Fred Hooper, given that he's a Godolphin homebred and he's run fast, this, that, and the other. I can't help but think now, I mean, I'd be surprised if they wheeled him back that quickly, but I do wonder if there's a part of the folks involved that, I don't want to say are kicking themselves, but would have thought twice now seeing that kind of an effort, because I thought that was big. I thought he ran really, really well there. Be curious to see what the figs come back as, but he earned it. They went quick early on. Injunction, I laid out that was the perfect trip, and he just couldn't handle it. They couldn't hang with the heat. To your point, good call on you. That was a cold 3-4 exacta. Fearless up the inside, comes out with his run. It ended up being a very formful race, but I thought that was a really good effort from this horse who continues to I think this is his game. He's a one-turn miler. They'll probably try to stretch him out at some point again, but I think he's really done some big things going a one-turn mile.
For what it's worth, and this isn't my business, I do sometimes incorporate these softer things into handicapping, though. Coming back by the winner, to my eye, I wouldn't have known if he just run or was going to the gate. It looked like he had plenty left. If they do decide to do something unusual and bring him back that quick for a place like Dubai, because of that soft observation, I would probably be a little bit more forgiving than I would be just off the paper. But as I said before, much prefer when the bets are based on the hard numbers than the softer factors. Hey, we've got our next guest waiting in the green room. Let's bring him in now. We were just talking about Sam Houston Race Park. Here's their race caller and a key member of the In the Money media team. He's Nick Tamaro. Nick, how are things?
Doing great, guys. Glad to be with you. Hope you're having fun. I like your backdrop there, Pete. Tough to beat.
Yeah, it's not a bad place, this Gulfstream Park. We just had Dan on. We got to see the paddock view, but this isn't too bad with a little local skyline in the background either up here in the suites at Gulfstream. How's your day gone so far, Nick, wagering-wise here?
Boy, I'm going to be very annoyed if I lose this pick 5 at Aqueduct because Kumar got nailed right on the wire in race 7. But
oh dear,
I played a big cold Speaker's Corner over Endorsed. So I thought Endorsed cutting back off the Pegasus was the angle there, and I'm not exactly thrilled about the ride Endorsed got, but he was probably third best. He looked third best on paper, so I'm just not smart enough to play a cold 3-4-7 try. But no, otherwise it's been good. I mean, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, as far as Gulfstream goes, if you would have told me at the beginning of the day that Luis Saez would have rated 2 runaway need the lead types on the turf, I would have taken no on that prop. But he did that with Jouster and never surprised both. So I don't know. I mocked myself for picking an Italian, and I would have never put her on the lead. I would have never thought she'd be on the lead. Was glad to see her there. But yeah, obviously it's been a lot of fun. It feels like we're only about halfway home at Gulfstream though.
sometimes you're right for the wrong reason, or you're wrong for the
Wrong
right
for the
reason.
right reason is more my style.
Well, what about what's coming up? I mean, the great thing is so much more coming up. If I made you talk about one race you were particularly excited about, which one would you choose?
Next one at Gulfstream, Temple. Very excited about Temple in the McDermott. I thought he ran the best race. Maybe not the best race, but I thought he ran a very intriguing race last time out in the McKnight. He really made the only off-the-pace move whatsoever. He did it extremely wide around the turn, and I think Aban is ripe for the picking. This is a horse that's been really fortunate in recent starts, and with that squadron of Mike Maker horses in there, one of them better go to the lead. So, I mean, if we don't get some kind of pace in there to set up Temple and some of the other back markers, I'd be really surprised. Other than that, I mean, as far as the stakes go, Count Again in the kill row, he's going to be the favorite, but I think this is his opportunity to really come out and prove that he's at the top of this division in what's a really good race on paper. Should have enough pace to set him up, and he's a horse that I've been chasing since last year's kill row.
What do you
Nick,
think?
I got a question for you about the Fountain of Youth. It's a race that I have a difficult time. I think you can make a case for many horses. I don't think it's as cut and dry as there's one horse who's head and shoulders above everyone else. And I suppose you can say some of them are maybe a little bit more vulnerable. I keep going back to, are we going with Emmanuel or Emmanuel? Emmanuel?
Emmanuel is what I would say, but yeah.
I had heard one of the starts in one of the tapes. It was, but either way, point being, he's a horse that looks fantastic, but he hasn't had any adversity in either of his first two starts. What do you do with a horse like this in a race like this on arguably the biggest stage? I mean, that he's faced to date anyway, but in theory, this could be just the beginning of, bigger and better for him. What do you do with him at a short price, given the fact that he's going to encounter a number of firsts?
Yeah, first and foremost, I mean, we really missed out not having Richard Grunder call the races anymore at Tampa for this horse to run there. But speaking of names, but I kid, all kidding aside, Jason Beam's doing a great job over there. This is a horse that's always a hard read for me, right? You have a lightly raced Todd Pletcher trainee, had everything go their way in a couple of prior starts, including that recent allowance win. I didn't think it was the greatest of signs that in the Union came back and stunk up the joint on Wednesday afternoon at Gulfstream. And he was against the setup in the race, right? Emmanuel really took advantage of it, but then you watch the replay and you come to the conclusion this is like a paid workout. He didn't really, it was hands and heels the whole way around there. So it's tough to say how he'll react to the difference in probably the tax. He's not going to be on the lead. I think with a clean break simplification, we'll be stalking Mark Hamian, who's got a lot of speed, and that could put Emmanuel on that outside chase. But that's sort of the Todd Pletcher trip. And maybe he ends up running okay with that kind of trip. So I'm intrigued by him. I don't think he's much of a bet. I mean, maybe at around 7-2 or so, you could warm up to him a little bit, but his price is obviously going to go down a good bit off of the morning line that was made when Mo Donegal was part of the field. So yeah, he's a tough read for me. I wish I had a better conclusion. Obviously, like everybody else, we'll find out in an hour or so. But as far as right now, I think I'd probably treat him as a horse I'd use on multi-race plays, but intra-race, I'd be looking for a little bit more value.
No, that makes sense. This is our chance to talk about the races that are going to be happening between now and 6 o'clock. I realize when we come back on air. Matt, you want to give some final answers on either of the 3-year-old races or the races that we're not going to be back on for?
Well, the San Felipe, I wish I had any opinion, but I don't, other than I want to see what Forbidden Kingdom does. We talked about it earlier. I think he's a little bit of a runoff, but I'm readily admitting that I could be way off on that point. The Fountain of Youth, I think it's a really fun race. I didn't love the workouts and the way that Rattle and Roll looked. I mean, he was a washy mess in both of his most recent works. He was a little bit keen early on as well. I don't love that. But, and again, I could be entirely wrong. Depending on what figs you use, his run in that race at Keeneland last October as a 2-year-old was relatively close to what some of these 3-year-olds have done to this point this season. Granted, that Breeders' Futurity has not come back solid. The only horse that's really done anything is Classic Causeway, and he did all the dirty work that day in that spot. So I'm acknowledging there aren't, it's not like he's an absolute cinch in a spot like this, but I do think if he continues on the way that those 2 route races that he's won suggested he could end up being with the pace, I think he's in with a big chance. The question is, what kind of price is he? He's going to be a fraction of what that 12-1 morning line suggested. He'll probably be somewhere, I think, in that sort of 9-2, 5-1 range. I wouldn't go any lower than that, but he's the one I'm most interested in seeing what we get out of. Obviously, Emmanuel is the total wild card because he could be a superstar or he could come up wanting when he's really asked the question, I should say. And beyond that, simplification. I thought he ran fine in that most recent start. He never changed leads down the lane, but I don't know. He's another one that I'm just not totally sold on. I think there are many more questions than answers in that Fountain of Youth, and I'll be very curious to see how it unfolds.
What did you think, Nick, from a wagering point of view about either of the 3-year-old preps?
I don't really think the San Felipe is much of a betting race. I mean, I agree with Matt that Forbidden Kingdom looks like a bit of a runoff type. He's probably tough to trust at 1 mile and a 16th. And, you'd have to imagine that one of the Baffords will be waiting in the wings if he really can't stay the trip. Although I'm not a big fan of Doppelganger. I think he'll have to take another step forward. He did take a step forward in terms of buyer speed figures last time out, not in terms of performance. I thought I was disappointed by the race Happy Jack ran in the Bob Lewis. I thought he'd run a little bit better. He was a little dressed up, I think, off a soft trip. That would be kind of a pass for me from a wagering perspective, waiting on some of the races a little later on in the card. In the Fountain of Youth, I think the horse that you what you kind of want to do in here is find somebody to fool around with in the gimmicks. And, if you believe it's going to be a relatively fast-paced race, then, maybe you can warm up to Rattle and Roll a little bit. I agree with some of the sentiment on the workouts. He, of course, was training with, I think the horse's name is Classic Minister, that ran early today, that came up a little bit short of Felix early on the card. And, I don't know what to make of Rattle and Roll either. No, the horse that I was going to ask you guys about to get your opinion, High Oak ran a couple of races as a 2-year-old that probably put him in the ballpark. You'd expect some improvement 2 to 3. Bill Mott could have very easily shipped this horse up to the Gotham where he would have made a ton of sense. And he's here. And I mean, I know we're probably stuck in the afterglow of a massive Bill Mott win a couple of minutes ago, but does this horse have any chance?
I mean, I think he does. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, Pete, and I'm curious again your take on it. But that run in the Saratoga Special, I thought was so promising. He looked so good that day, and yeah, he was close to a hot pace in the hopeful. But I was just so disappointed with him kind of coming apart the way that he did. And he's been gone for a little while. Maybe it feels like a little bit of a rush, but at the same time, to your point, Nick, I mean, Mott could have easily shipped to a much more advantageous situation for a horse like this, and instead they choose to run him going 2 turns against what is going to be a relatively salty field. I mean, if he, stating the obvious, if he gets back to that Saratoga Special, he's in with a massive chance. I guess I'm just curious what we're going to get off such a lengthy layoff.
I like the horse. I'm going to use him and Emmanuel in there. My thought being that just keying off the old speed figure points for age, angle. I don't like Bill Mott when it's not the target, and that is the case. In the end of the day, it really is going to come down to price for me, Nick. What price do you think High Oak is going to be in that spot?
I mean, he's got to be about 9 to 2 or 6 to 1, I would think. I mean, I guess one horse that I would have mentioned in terms of wagering as well would have been In Due Time, who makes perfect sense and probably should get the right kind of trip. But I mean, it would seem to me as if Simplification, probably Emmanuel, and I mean, I think there's a very good chance that In Due Time are all shorter prices than High Oak. Rattle and Roll is going to get some money as well. So I would say he's probably got to be about 6 to 1, roughly.
I'd keep him on side at that number. I think we do have 1 minute to this 5th race at Santa Anita, which I don't think we're going to be able to show all of anyway, as the ABR stream is going to be taking over on Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita social media. But as they go in the gate, pretty much just time for a selection, and that's it if anybody has one. What did you think, Nick? Have you looked at this one?
I did. This was part of my now defunct All Turf Pick 5. I liked, long shot wise, I thought Avenue de France, the 7 was interesting to get a piece. She closed into a glacial pace last time out. I thought the big win candidates were the 110 and 11. Closing remarks going to Vegas and mucho unusual.
I was going to play Maron at this price, I think. Interesting long shot. What do you think, Matt?
I bet on Closing Remarks. I understand the pace was really, really hot in that most recent run, but she just cruised by horses on the far turn and drew off and won like a good thing. I think maybe it could be a sign of a newly turned 4-year-old that's really kind of put it all together. So I bet her she's 7 to 1 right now.
let's send it to Frank until our 5 o'clock window ends. ABR taking over. Check it out on Gulfstream and Santa Anita Social. Come back with us from 6 to 7. We'll have another hour. Nick, thank you for the visit. Really appreciate it, my man.
And we get somebody busting
Thank
through the
you
gate.
so much, guys. I appreciate it. Hope we'll get another minute here to look at.
Yeah, we can finish our window before they start the race. At least we don't have to rush you out of here quite so bad.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. But no, thank you. I appreciated it, and look forward to doing this again in the future.
All right, good stuff. We might as well cut it now. ABR about to take over. We will be back in an hour though, so stick with ABR. That's a great team they have assembled for that, and then we'll be back as well in 1 hour's time.